Get strong.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Beautiful Bag Podcast. I am your host, LeeAnne Hayden, coming to you from my office in the lofts. I hope you guys are having a fantastic day, no matter what it is you're doing. I know today it's a little warmer out. I think it might be 20 something degrees. And for us here in New England, that's warmer. You guys have been getting a cold front down south, and wherever you're tuning in from, I hope it's a beautiful day where you are. So I am doing a solo episode this week. I know that I have had some of the other episodes over the last couple of weeks have been some repeats. So the really sad thing is when I moved hosting sites over the last few months, when I moved everything over to a new hosting site, somehow about 6 months worth of the original podcast got lost. So what you'll see over this year is I'm going to be incorporating some of those older podcasts to make sure that they're up and you guys can hear them, because some of those stories are just absolutely phenomenal. I know you guys enjoyed the last two that I have posted. So this week we're talking marriage. And why? Well, it's February. And isn't February the month of love? And I put that in quotes, like it's the month of love. Love should be all the time, by the way, not just a month or a day, but February is always known as the month of love. And I figured, why not share with you guys some of my story with my husband, John, because I don't think I've talked about it much, maybe just a few things here and there. So let's get into it. So I hope you're having a great day. And wherever you're tuning in from, if you could take in a sip of water, if you guys could just leave me a message as to where you guys tune in from. And don't ever forget, hit that subscribe button and also rate and review these episodes. If you love them, the more ratings we get, the more 5-star ratings we get, the more, reviews we have, the better it's going to be. And the more of our message is going to be out there. So I really appreciate that. And that for you guys that do that for me or for us. So let's get into marriage. I don't even know if you guys, well, yes, most of you know I've been married. I've been married and I have 5 children. We blended our family. John and I got together 23 years ago. 23 years ago. Gosh, that's such a long time and not all at the same time, because I'm like, I'm not even halfway done with my life yet, right? I'm going to live till I'm 112. That's my plan. Don't know if God's going to leave me here that long, but that's my plan. And so I'm not even halfway done with my life yet. However, so John and I met 23 years ago, and the story goes, at the time I was working, had recently been separated from my husband, been 2 years, and I was raising my kids. At the time that I had gotten divorced from my first husband, we'd been married for maybe 3 years. So it was one of those, like, I just knew, right? So I was raising my children, and my children were 2 and 4 when we got separated, 2 and 7 when we got separated. And so here I am, I'm raising my kids, and I'm like, I'm doing this all on my own. I'm a single mom. I'm not going to get into that whole story, but I really was a true single mom, supporting them pretty much on my own. I had support from my family, from my parents, from my aunt, but I was supporting these kids back in the day, 25 years ago on my own. And 2 years goes by, and I was working for a friend's dad and a friend's stepmom. They both had their own businesses. So the stepmom she was a therapist, which was great because I had someone to talk to. But so she was a therapist and I did her bookkeeping. So I had gone to school for bookkeeping. Right? I have the personality for bookkeeping, but that's what I did. So I did bookkeeping. So I did that for her. And then I did it also for the dad. Well, the dad thought that I was talented enough to try. He had training business, meaning not a personal training, not like physical training, but he went into companies like MIT and, all these high-end companies, Akamai, all these high-end companies. And he trained on management skills. He trained on, really not self-help, but he really trained on like management skills and how to be a better manager, a better person, all of those things, right? How to break through things, kind of like a mini Tony Robbins. So he was fantastic. And he thought that I had the personality and the skill set to go into that training. So he sent me off to this courses. And so all of a sudden now I'm starting to do things and I'm developing courses with him. He's helping me develop courses. And one of the times we went to a management training, he's like, LeeAnne, I need you to come with me. So you can see what all this is like. So we're in Boston, go into this training room and, there's a whole bunch of men Sorry, there really was like more men than women in this management training company for this training program for this company, and it was all their managers. And so we were doing this whole breakthrough sessions, breakouts, all this stuff. And it's funny because I felt like I was the Vanna White. I mean, at the time I was maybe 30 years old, right? 30 years old, single mom, barely making ends meet. I had my apartment and I had plastic on the windows during the winter to keep the heat in. I was eating leftover macaroni and cheese from the kids' plates, right? It's like literally paycheck to paycheck, didn't even cut it. I was trying to get things done. And so now all of a sudden here I am, I'm in this training session, all these managers, all these people. And we were talking about like how our brains think, how we think, like how to work together when you might be thinking in one quadrant and somebody else might be thinking in another quadrant. Anyways, long story short, we're in this training session and I kept sitting at this table where a bunch of gentlemen were, and there were some really cute guys sitting at this table, if you want to know the truth, right? 30 years old. So I'm sitting at this table, kept sitting at this table over the days. And then when the training was over, I go home, go back to the office. My boss says to me, "Hey, LeeAnne, you know that guy, John Hayden?" That's my husband now. "But do you know that guy, John Hayden?" I said, "Not really." He's like, "Well, he didn't seem really happy. So what I need you to do is, can you please send him an email and just let him know if there's anything we can do to help support him, that we're here for him." And I said, "Sure, fine, I can do that." So guys, I go and I send this email out, right? Boss tells me to send the email, go and send it out, and I ship it off. All of a sudden, like pretty quickly, I get a ding and it's a email back from him saying, "Oh, thank you so much." And he was kind of a little flirty in this email. And then he said something about, "It's a beautiful day. I'm going out to have lunch." And here I am going, "That's nice." Like, I don't even know what this guy looks like. I don't even know who this guy is. So I sent him back and I go, "Oh, that sounds nice." Well, the man thought, and I've told this story so many times, the man thought by me saying, "Oh, that sounds nice." Now I need you guys to help me out here because it really just sounded nice, that it was a nice day. I'll go outside and enjoy your lunch. He took it as, "Oh, that sounds nice. Hint, hint, come take me to lunch, invite me out to lunch." And so he did, right? Unbeknownst to me at the time, he had sent that email that I had sent to him originally to a couple of the other guys that were sitting at the same table. I guess he had been sitting at the same table that I kept sitting at. Guys, I really don't remember. All right. Anyway, I digress. So he's sitting here and I'm like, so he sends me this flirty message. "Guys, I just told you, single mom, 30 years old, plastic on the windows to keep the heat in," right? Mind you, it wasn't that, it was like summertime at this point. But again, leftover macaroni and cheese, like that kind of, right? So this man asked me out to lunch. I'm thinking, yeah, restaurant, food, yeah, count me in, right? So I go and I meet him for lunch. I had the nicest time because I just acted like me, like just straight up me. I wasn't trying to impress anybody. I wasn't trying to do anything. I was just out enjoying myself. And he asked all these questions. John's a very good asker of questions, and he wanted to know me. So he kept asking me these questions and I just was answering honestly, like whatever it was. Our food comes, mind you, we go to the Cheesecake Factory, and you guys know how big those plates are. If you've ever been to the Cheesecake Factory, they're like 5,000 calories a plate. So here I am, I'm eating away and I'm doing my thing, and then his plate, he has his plate. And I looked over and his plate just looked good. Like his food just looked good. Now, guys, I'm sorry to the men, but women, we usually get the salad and then we eat your fries, right? Like that's what we did back then. I don't know if we still do that because I know I wouldn't be doing that now. So anyways, his dish just looked good. Again, I'm not trying to impress anybody. This is food. This is lunch. This is getting to know somebody. Guys, I literally took my fork and I went right into his plate. Took a bite of his food and I was like, "Oh my gosh, that is really good." I didn't ask, nothing. Right in there and took a bite of his food. He starts laughing. He goes, I don't think I've ever had someone do that before." So, anyways, took the food home, took my leftovers home. I'm thinking, "Oh, the kids are going to eat well tonight." Took the food home, whatever. Next day, I get another email from him saying, "Yesterday was really, really nice. I've never been with somebody who was so open and honest," and whatever else he said. I think he even said like something about my hair smelling good. I don't know. I don't know if it was that time or right after, but anyways, at one point in time, he said something about my hair smelling good and what shampoo I had. Anyways, so who's hitting on who here? So that's how we met. That's how John and I met. And we started dating in that time, 23 3 years ago. And we started dating. At the time, my son was 4 and my daughter was 9. So he had three boys, 10 to 15 at the time. And so we kind of kept the kids separated for a while. We did our dating. We got to know each other. Long story short, ups and downs, breakups and back together. He lived 45 minutes away. It was this whole thing. I'd go up there for the weekend with the kids, come home. Anyways, that's how we met. 6 years later, we're living together. We've got all the kids together. His oldest son leaves. He goes off into the Marines, graduates college, goes off into the Marines. Now, our kids are all older. It's 6 years later. And so that's when we got married. So we got married. We dated for 6 years before we got married. And we've been married for 17 and a half years, which is a long time, and it comes from, that it's commitment, it's work. And so all of those of you who are married, marriage is probably, aside from raising children, which is probably the hardest, most rewarding job you can ever have, marriage is not an easy road, because what happens in your marriage is you grow, you change, over these years, I've changed. I went from being the bookkeeper and very unsure of myself and very insecure and right? I'm struggling at the time. And while we were dating, he had not pushed me, but he had encouraged, is probably more the word, but sometimes it felt like a really hard push to better myself, to try different jobs, to go into different companies, to get out of the bookkeeping scene and get into a company that had stability, right? So that's when I got into corporate sales, but I got in from customer service, and then I went into the sales role, and it was and then I went to a different company and had a better sales role. And then from there, so I've changed in who I was from a work perspective, because he's, he guided me, because he's 12 years older than I am, and he's helped me get to that point. Long story short, marriage is not an easy thing, right? We change. Come years later, this was not, so 9.5 years ago is when my cancer diagnosis happened. And the day I'm recording this is World Cancer Day. So to all of you cancer survivors, and I want to take a minute just for us and for those that we have lost along the way. And I just want to give a few seconds just so that we can remember them and be so grateful for them. So just take a deep breath in. Close your eyes. If you're driving, don't close your eyes. Okay. It was a quick one, but I just felt like we needed to do that. I needed to do that for myself. So 9.5 years ago, I was diagnosed with cancer. And at the time, all of that was going on. My husband had just lost his father. His father had passed away. He was trying to take care of his mother, and then his mother passed away. One of the boys was struggling really, really bad. So he was trying to take care of his son. And, all of a sudden, here comes cancer, right? And what do you do with all of that? It's how do you grow through that? How do you do that, right? That word cancer is really scary. However, there's more and more survivors at this point in life. They're finding more and more cures. They're getting ahead of it. We're getting ahead of it. We're trying to, right? So that's a good thing. So all of a sudden, 9.5 years ago, I'm diagnosed with cancer, and my cancer was the size of a racquetball when they found it in September of 2015. 2 surgeries go by, January 2016, and they take that racquetball, which now had grown to the size of a Nerf football, and they had to take enough margin to get that tumor out of my pelvis floor, which then left me in a permanent colostomy bag for the rest of my life. And it was something, I've said this before, it was something that I didn't want. How do you go through that when you're married to someone for a long time, and now all of a sudden here's another massive drastic change? Right? Massive, drastic change when so much things are going on. We had other things going on at the time too. I was in a business that was falling apart. It actually fell apart a year after. There's so much to do and so much going on. And how do you look at yourself? And I don't know from his standpoint, sometimes he doesn't like to talk about it, but I know how much he loves me. I know how I felt looking at myself in the mirror, right? The beginning of, ew, I have this bag now attached to my body. And, I had done fitness competitions, and I had gone into network marketing, and I was doing training on stages, and I was up on stage in a bathing suit, and I was doing all that stuff prior to the cancer. And before that, I was like, I didn't appreciate her enough. Like that body that I fought hard for, that person that I fought hard for, I didn't appreciate her enough. And I talked about this prior. Now it's like all of a sudden now I'm looking at myself and I'm in a bag and I had put weight on. And over the last 9 years, my weight has gone up and down 20 pounds, guys. I don't know. I don't change something. I don't change a thing. I eat clean. I work out most days. And my body just decides, hi, we're going to put on 20 pounds and we're going to hang on to it for a few years. And then we're going to drop it for a few years. And then we're going to give back to you for a few years, and it's just, sometimes it's that insecurity that can kind of come back and really get to you. So I'm sitting here looking at myself going, okay, I'm now in a colostomy bag. Am I still going to be beautiful to my husband? Is he still going to want to be around me? Is he still going to think that I'm beautiful? That, you know what I mean? Is he still going to love me? At the end of the day, we all just want to be loved. Is he still going to love me? And I've had conversations with some of you who your relationships broke up because of it, because people, they couldn't handle it. They couldn't handle it. And I got to tell you, that's not on you, that's on them. They're the ones that are weak. They're not the strong one here in that scenario. You're the strong one. You're the strong one because you're living with this every single day of your life and you're getting up and you're still living every day. So I'm very, very proud of you. You're the strong one. That is on them. They are the weak one. Anyways, I was blessed enough to have John. And again, we're still together. However, over these last 9 years, we've both had to adjust. We've had to adjust. We've had to adjust. I remember the first time he said to me, we're sitting there and he looked at me and he's like, honey, this was within the first couple of weeks. And again, in the beginning, it smells. It really does in the beginning. The bags are plastic. You can see through them. It's their stool. You're trying to figure this out. You can have leaks. You don't know what appliances are going to work for you. You don't know what pouch, you just don't know what's going to work for you in the time. And so I remember him sitting there and we were on a plane, believe it or not, and I had a blanket over me and he still leaned over to me and he's like, honey, I can smell it. And it broke my heart because I'm like, oh my gosh, because I could smell it. And I'm like, if he could smell it, am I going to smell like shit all the time? Am I going to smell like poo all the time? However, I've realized that was in the beginning and I found appliances that work now and I don't. I think he says to me, I ask him every once, I'm like, have you ever smelled, because I can smell it once in a while. Like I can smell like gas because it kind of, if I have broccoli, it comes up through the, up the pants, up the shirt, like into my face, kind of like the mask coming up, right? The green mask from the movie coming up at you. So sometimes I can smell it. He's like, I don't smell a thing. I don't smell a thing. So that's a good thing. It's that communication and just knowing that some things to come into stages. Intimacy, right? When all of this first happened, of course, you're not doing anything for at least 6 weeks because you're sewed up in the front. And if you have like a total colectomy, like your butt's sewed up, like guys, we don't have buttholes. Some of us, like some people do, some people don't. If you have your anus removed, your rectum removed, like half of your colon or your whole colon removed, and it's permanent forever, they'll stitch that little bum right up. Right. So you're stitched up everywhere. So nothing's happening. You're not having sex for 6 weeks. Right. So, that first time, that first moment of intimacy, you're both scared. You're both scared. We were both scared. We were afraid. He was afraid he was going to hurt me. I was afraid I was going to get hurt. That spontaneity that we used to have, we had to plan a little bit for it. Like I had to plan a little bit for it, like going in the bathroom, making sure I'm like everything's cleaned up. Like it couldn't be just that, hey, let's go. Kids aren't around. Lock ourselves in the laundry room. Just saying. All right. That stuff kind of, I could, after I went and changed, I could come down and be like, hey, let's go. But those first times of intimacy, it's kind of scary because he doesn't want to hurt me. I don't want to hurt him. However, we learned how to do it, right? Like we learned you don't get hurt, guys. You can still be spontaneous. You can still do it every which way you did it before. You can still do it every which way now, just so you know. So that intimacy piece, that took a lot. And there were some rough times with us emotionally for a few years. And that stuff didn't happen until a couple of years after my surgery, after all of that, after we'd gone through all of that. There was a few years and it really wasn't all that long ago. It was at the time, probably 8 years ago. I want to say 8 years ago. So it was a year after. And we were struggling because the business that I had been in, I had gotten into I was in network marketing. I had was with a great company and then went and started with someone who was brand new, celebrity, wanted to do a makeup line. After 2.5 years of blood, sweat, and tears, she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. And she closed the business. So there goes income, right? the time John had lost his job, right? So here it is, John lost his job, my business just starts, my business closes, and we're like, what do we do, right? We sold our house. We had a beautiful home that we raised the kids in. We sold the beautiful home. He went, and it took 9 months for him to find a new job. I started looking for a new job. And at the time, we had said, you know what? We were fighting. We were fighting. We were fighting. And sometimes finances can do that to you, but we were fighting, and we were fighting bad. And I don't know, looking back, I'm thankful that we did some of the things that we did. And I'm going to tell you what we did, but I am grateful that we did it because we weren't going to stay together. There was a time that we just, both of us didn't think it was going to work. And it's kind of like that, giving up, right? Giving up. And when you look at it, it was financial. It was financial. It wasn't because we didn't love each other anymore. It was literally the finances were crushing us, like crushing us and who we were as people. And so I had to realize, and he had to realize, that marriage is truly more important. I mean, we literally looked at each other a couple times and said, I can't do this anymore. I don't know if I want to be here anymore. I don't know if I want to be in this anymore. He didn't feel appreciated. I didn't feel appreciated. We were both trying to do things to make things work, and it just wasn't. So what we ended up doing, guys, is when we both looked at each other, we said, hey, he's like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And I'm like, I don't either, but I don't want to give up. I don't want to give up. I'd always been the one, like years prior, I would run. I was a runner, right? I would be like, I'm out. Something didn't go my way. I'm out. Prior to meeting him, I'm out. I'm done. Not putting up with it. This is easy. I'm better off going it alone. And this time, like, I don't want to go it alone. He's my best friend. He was my best friend. And again, guys, this was 8 years ago. And so he gets a new job. And I said to him, we sold the house. We sold everything we owned. Everything we owned. Now, I had successful businesses, and he had made quite a bit of money. And we were selling stuff. I was selling everything. I sold, what I realized during all this time, guys, I sold my Louis Vuitton purses. I sold jewelry. I sold clothes. We had estate sales. We sold most of our Oriental rugs. He kept the ones that he loved. We sold most of our furniture. We sold almost everything. All we left ourselves with was a few of the Orientals that he really loved and our bedroom set. It's what we kept, because what we did is that's when we moved to Manhattan. That is when we moved to Manhattan 8 years ago. Was it 8 years ago? It was 2018, whatever that year is, right? Yeah, 8 years ago. So that's when we moved to Manhattan in April of 2018. And he had gotten a new job. I had gotten a job in the city. I went back to corporate America. I said, okay, maybe network marketing isn't for me. I went back into corporate America and went back to work. And from there, that's when him and I got to really sit down and just be ourselves. We were 4 hours away from the kids. They were all adults living on their own, married, doing their own thing. And so we had to go so that we could focus on ourselves, so that we could just like get in there and be like, okay, let's break the mold. Let's break the cycle. Let's break what we are doing every single day, that same routine. Like, let's go break it all. Let's start new jobs, new careers. Let's really get in here. And so we moved to New York, and we lived in New York for 3 years. And what we did over those 3 years, again, up and down, like learning to communicate, like we're here, we're working on our marriage. Like, how do we get through this? Let's communicate. We still fought. We still had the struggle, but we really powered through that struggle. And if you guys know me, my faith is huge. I love God, and I'm not ever going to apologize for that. Like, I am proud to be his daughter. And I really didn't get into reading the Bible until right before my cancer diagnosis, but I pray with him every single day. I tell you guys that all the time. I write in my journal, "Good morning, Father," every single day. However, so I prayed and I worked on it, and we both worked on it, and we both figured it out. And I have realized that he is who he is. He's realized I am who I am. And we made it through that. And we are in such a great place now because we learned to communicate. We learned how not to fight. Alcohol, let me tell you something, alcohol in this whole scenario, not a good thing. Not a good thing. I cut way back on what I was drinking. I mean, we did live in New York, so I was going out and having one or two a night or every few nights. not every night, but every few nights, like I cut back because I would fight more with him, right? He's a beer guy. He's an Irish beer guy who goes to the pub and has his beers every day. That's his thing. That's who he is. Not changing him. And I think I was trying to, right? Not changing him, right? He loves his family. He wants to provide. He wants to be a provider and a protector. And that's what he is. And I think at the time when we were going through the rough stuff, he couldn't do that. He couldn't provide. He couldn't protect. And, so he had to work on that stuff. I had to work on my stuff. So now here we are. That's my whole story, guys. So now here we are. We're back in New Hampshire. We moved back home 4 years ago because the oldest started having babies and they wanted us around and our kids were here and COVID happened and we couldn't get home at times. And, our children just wanted us. They missed us. And family is important. Family is the most important thing in life. So we moved back to New Hampshire and now here we are and life is good. Right? We're probably might have a few more bumps in the road. This is marriage. This is commitment. This isn't easy stuff. It's not easy. However, it's worth it. I love that man and he loves me and we love our family. And I just felt today, it's the month of love. It's Valentine's Day's coming up. Now, John and I don't celebrate Valentine's Day. We never have. To me, I'm like, please don't waste the money on flowers. They're just going to die because they're just going to die, right? Don't need that right now. And if I want chocolate, I'm going to get some chocolate. So don't right? So that's just us. And if we want to go out to dinner and date, we do that. That's another thing we started to do again that we had gotten away from because, financially we're having a hard time, but we started to date each other again in New York. We started to say, okay, it's date night. Let's go out. It's date night. Let's go out. It's date night. Let's spend time together. It's date night. Let's watch a movie together. Like, let's do some things and date each other again. And that was one of the big things that we did is that we date each other and we still date each other. And now here we are 4 years later, happily back in New Hampshire with our family and our lives are put back together. And yeah, John's got his career. I'm back into network marketing. I'm still doing my speaking engagements and I have, a whole bunch of work that I do with Hollister, company that I love and I'm so grateful for, and now I'm back into network marketing and I'm loving it. I'm surrounding myself by women who I truly appreciate and can grow with. That's my story. That's my little love story. And it's 23, almost 24 years and we're still together and we had some bumps. Again, we're probably going to have some more at some point in time. So with that said, I hope you learned something in hearing my story. I hope that it meant something or that at least it gives you some kind of if you're struggling, communication is key. If you're struggling, give the person some room to grow, to change, to deal with it in their own way. I mean, he had to deal with me being in an ostomy. I mean, right? And I had to deal with me being in an ostomy. And sometimes you just don't do that right. And then other factors in life happen. So give each other time to grow. But marriage is work and it's worth it. And it's not always easy. And sometimes you do have to say goodbye and you do have to cut ties and you do have to go your own ways. Sometimes that happens. And if it does, it's okay. It's okay because you're still going to be okay on the other side. And the person who you're supposed to be with, the person you're meant to be with, you're going to find them and they're going to be worth it. Okay. I promise you that. So I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Please leave a comment and a message below. Don't forget to rate and review and let me know what you thought of this episode. All right. We'll catch you guys later.
These testimonials are representative of my or our experiences, but the exact results and experience will be unique and individual to each person. The information provided herein is not medical advice and is not intended to substitute for the advice of your personal physician or other healthcare providers.